So I don't usually, welcome back by the way. I don't usually take a look at budget laptops, right? But this specific Lenovo Ideapad has impressed me well enough over the last 2 years for me not to give it some YouTube airtime, like seriously. From coding projects to like gaming sessions, this laptop has really proven that it's reliable, and without breaking the bank. It's no powerhouse of a laptop, but to be honest, it's not really a slouch either. I mean, I do have a few gaming laptops, which I obviously can't compare this to from a performance perspective, as it would be unfair. But for like a thin and compact and genuinely all-round day-to-day laptop, this budget-friendly Lenovo Ideapad is great. I've used mine for a lot of like software development and for light gaming when mainly traveling, where I don't want to haul one of my heavy gaming laptops, and I wasn't away for like a long period of time, so it served its purpose for what I needed it to do, right? Anyways, let's jump straight into the specs of this little boss of a laptop. So, as mentioned, it is a Lenovo Ideapad, but specifically the Ideapad 115IAU7. So that's the full model number there from a CPU perspective, and this is actually the main reason why I bought this laptop, but I'll come back to that later. It has a Intel Core i3 1215U, which is a 6-core 8-thread processor. So from a display perspective, it has a 15.6-inch screen. It supports a maximum resolution of 1920 by 1080, so basically a 1080p panel. It is a TN panel with 220 nits of brightness, a contrast ratio of 4:1, and has a 60 Hz refresh rate. For the RAM, it supports a maximum of 40 gigs of DDR4 3200 MHz, so it sounds like an odd number, but let me explain. The motherboard has 8 gigs of RAM soldered to it, but they do include a single open SODIMM slot. So in other words, you can upgrade it with a maximum 32 gig RAM module. I upgraded mine with a 16 gig RAM module, bringing my laptop to 24 gigs of DDR4 3200. From a storage perspective, there's only one M2 slot. There's no other additional storage available on the motherboard itself. So it is a PCI Express 4x4 M2 slot. It came with a 256 gig NVMe drive, but I've updated mine to a 1 terabyte. So for ports, this laptop comes with 2 USB Type A ports, that being 3.2 Gen 1. There is an additional USB-C port, which is also 3.2 Gen 1, but it is for data only. For HDMI output, there is a single HDMI 1.4B port. For connectivity, it does support Bluetooth 5.1, and there is no LAN port. There is obviously a wireless LAN adapter on the motherboard, being the Intel AC9560. It does have a full-size SD card reader, and for audio ports, there is a single headphone and microphone combo jack. For audio, there are two 1.5 watt speakers. As far as input is concerned, it has a full-sized keyboard, but it's not backlit, and the touchpad is of your average size and is a multi-touch touchpad. For communications, there is a 720p webcam. It's not too bad. It supports a maximum frame rate of 30 FPS, and there's obviously a built-in microphone that I guess is pretty average. From power perspective, it has a 42 watt hour battery with a power adapter, that being a 65 watt power adapter. From a weight perspective, it comes in at a whopping 1.63 kgs. So let's have a look at the CPU in this laptop, that being the Core i3 1215U, and this is the very reason I actually bought this laptop. So I developed some software called Taskmarks. It is a hardware and systems utility for Windows. Basically what I needed to do was I needed to be able to check how the software dealt with Intel's new 12th gen processors at the time. And that was due to that some of the 12th gen processors, as you might know, come with performance cores and efficiency cores. Now, performance cores support hybrid threading where efficiency cores don't. And this actually explains the core and thread count on this CPU. So it has a total of 6 cores and 8 threads, and the reason for that is it has 2 performance cores, so 2 cores and 4 threads, and then 4 efficiency cores, which is 4 cores and 4 threads. Having a look at the boost clocks, for the performance cores, they have a max boost clock of 4.4 GHz, where the efficiency cores have a max boost clock of 3.3 GHz. From an L3 cache size, the CPU comes with 10 megs. It has a base power or CPU power of 15 watts, a max turbo power of 55 watts, and this CPU actually supports a max memory size of 64 gigs. Not that we can put that in this laptop, but that's what it supports. So let's have a look at the iGPU. It is the Intel UHD graphics for 12th gen. It has a max clock of 1.1 GHz. It has 64 execution units. It does support DirectX 12.1. For OpenGL, it has support up to 4.6. And for OpenCL, it does support 3.0. It does support Intel QuickSync, which is a bonus, and it does support Intel's virtualization technology. Alright, let's actually have a closer look at this panel. So, as I previously mentioned, this is a 1080p panel, which made software development and light video editing actually quite doable, to be honest. The 220 nits of brightness, I guess, is acceptable for indoor use. Ideally, for outdoor use, you would like anything between 300 and 500, but for a budget laptop, you obviously can't complain, right? So, the same applies to, I guess, the 60Hz refresh rate, which is acceptable. It has a contrast ratio of 4:1, so in short, the display panel is nothing to brag about. I guess its main benefit is that it supports 1080p and it's not one of those HD panels. So additionally, obviously with the integrated iGPU, it does support Intel QuickSync, which I did previously mention, which is a very helpful feature when it comes to video encoding and rendering tasks. I mean, I did this entire video on this laptop, from screen capture to even just the audio capture. So, you know, more than capable. And then obviously additionally with the 6 cores and 8 threads, the laptop offers solid compiling performance for code projects. I was able to efficiently debug a fully developed, relatively complex .NET Web API while simultaneously debugging an Angular 19 project, which was obviously making calls to that Web API. And then on top of that, the setup also included I had a Postgres database running in a Docker container that was being accessed by the Web API. And while debugging all of this, I didn't encounter any noticeable, should I say, performance issues. So in short, a pretty solid coding performance from this laptop. So let's have a quick look at the laptop's internals and other features before we start running through some benchmarks. Anyway, so there's the single RAM slot and the single M.2 slot. There isn't much cooling going on, as you can see, but it is a rather low powered CPU. Noise wise, I didn't think the fan got too loud under load. I mean, you can definitely hear it, but it's nothing in comparison to, say, like one of my gaming laptops, obviously, which makes sense. The touchpad isn't anything special, but it gets the job done. The keyboard, to be honest, does seem a bit mushy, but I've had worse. There's definitely some flex in the keyboard, but I didn't notice it, to be honest, when smashing out code. It's not backlit, but I mean, I wouldn't expect that at this price point. Talking about price, I've noticed this laptop price-wise, I've seen it from $280 to about $325, which isn't a bad price in my opinion. So back to the webcam. It is a 720p webcam with up to 30 frames per second during recording. It does have a privacy slider to cover the lens, and from a mic perspective, it isn't bad. I mean, it's acceptable. It's not great, but it gets the job done. So let's now jump into these benchmarks. Just with the gaming benchmarks, I've had to, with some of the games, lower their resolution to get a frame rate that I deem playable, like the minimum frame rate that I felt the game still felt playable. So you will see some of the games I've had to drop the resolution below 720p. Not a bad showing, I think. That'll do, Ideapad. That'll do. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep it tidy, keep it clean. Cheers.